Good afternoon, Elena. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Wonderful. And I appreciate you very much taking this time in order for us to chat a little bit about some of your experience with the Seven Keys for Attention Development program. And I know that you have a lot to share. And I know that the people listening, okay, will probably pay close attention because so many of them are confronting similar issues just like yourself that causes distraction, disorder, and dysfunction in one's life that can be a bit confusing and overwhelming. So maybe you can just start off simply by telling me and those who are listening, what were you struggling with in your life before you and I got back together to work on the Seven Keys?
Well, what I was struggling with is that I went from being single and having a lot of freedom to getting married and immediately having my children. And I really felt that I lost myself. The demands of being, a full-time parent and, of course, the demands of being in a marriage, especially when you're so used to being single and on your own and having a lot of freedom to basically that kind of flies out the window. And, it's challenging. It's challenging for both partners. Um, and just I felt like I had just lost myself. It was a matter of this person needs water, that person needs juice, this person needs something to eat, and it's a lot of running and a lot of and just a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety that would come up to me. That would come up, and I really felt like I was losing touch with who I really am, and that peace in my life that was once there is no longer there. Dealing in a household of, the demands of three people and never had that before. And so it was just a lot of losing focus, not even having time to sit down and just no time, no freedom. And it was just, I literally just lost myself and my stress level, just was crazy. And I mean, it would start to come out in my eating. It would start to come out in my, I normally never kept alcohol in my house. And normally I would start to have a glass of wine every other night. And that was just not really who I was, where I'd sit down. Oh my gosh, I have 5 minutes to actually sit down in between my millions of errands while my children are at school to sit down and eat a bag of cheese popcorn. Oh my gosh, this is like a luxury. And, and it's just those luxuries that I took for granted before, my family life came into play. They just no longer were there. Oh my gosh, I have, 5 minutes to, do something, but it was 5 minutes to do something. It wasn't exactly, it was destructive towards myself. It was kind of like de-stressing in a way that wasn't beneficial for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, because when you go from that place of freedom and being single and living for yourself, and now you're responsible for two young children and caring for a husband and all of the obligations and responsibilities, it's very distressing, okay, and takes a lot of time to be able to deal with it. And as you found yourself, your coping mechanisms weren't necessarily healthy coping mechanisms. And it makes me curious about one thing. What was the effect of your high stress levels, of your uncertainty on your family, on your young children? Did it affect them as well?
Yes, yes. I have a spiritual background, and I lost sight of that. And I would find myself to the point where I would yell at my kids or be stressed out when they would do something, but in actuality, they were picking up on my energy level. And they would start acting out when I was stressed out. And it wasn't them just being bad children, it was just basically them feeling that I was stressed out, and they were acting out as a cause of that. And then of course, this cycle gets even worse, and then I go and I yell at them and, tell them that they're acting out and they're driving me crazy. And even sometimes even just locking myself in a room so I don't say anything nasty to them.
Right, right, yeah. And that strains relationships. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a very difficult thing. And I imagine that strain then extends itself even to with your husband, that all of a sudden being in these stress levels, feeling the way that you're feeling, all of a sudden can make all other relationships very difficult as well.
You know, it does, and it's also too. It's almost like you're on this path, and without being able to focus, you kind of can't see your way off the path.
Yeah, that's well said. I like that. I mean, because we get so overwhelmed, it's all of a sudden blinders get put on, and we really can't see anything except the chaos and all of the stress and all of the responsibilities, and there's no freedom there. So it's amidst this condition in your life, emotionally, mentally, in your relationships, that all of a sudden you reconnected to some of your spirituality and got yourself involved with the 7 keys for attention development. And what was that like for you to all of a sudden take a pause from all of the stress and begin to do something in a proactive way to shift your consciousness and your condition and be able to improve your not only your own well-being, but the relationships with your family?
Well, when I was first introduced to the 7 keys, I realized that there's more than the crazy path that I was already on. And the 7 keys shifted me onto a much better, more peaceful path. And it actually allowed me to open myself up to possibilities that are starting to de-stress my life. And then also, too, as a side note, I stopped taking a glass of wine every other night. And that just automatically happened. I stopped finding myself wanting to sit down and decompress with like a bag of cheese popcorn, sometimes 2 bags of cheese popcorn. And I just found myself maybe wanting to go to boot camp or take a walk on the beach. And that was just a side thing. It wasn't something that I was looking to have happen. It was just a side thing that had just happened. So I decompressed in a way that wasn't damaging to my system. And then also too, just became more focused and more open and receptive to the flow of life. Because when I had that stress all around me, I wasn't open and receptive. And as a matter of fact, I even had a lot of attachment to things that weren't bringing me peace. And I always said that in my life, I don't care about material things. I want peace in my life. I would rather live in a little hut on the beach rather than a $10 million mansion. I need peace at the end of the day.
Yeah, beautiful. Getting your purpose back, of what you really want is so important, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what's really fun is that I noticed that my daughter, she's done a couple of the lessons with me. She's 4 years old, and she loves it. And she loves it. And she's even done a couple of inductions with me at night before we go to bed. And it's also allowed me to, I've had a Course in Miracles book that for children that's been sitting with me for about 2 years now. And it made me pick that up. And now she and I read it and do the lessons every night before she goes to bed.
Beautiful. So getting back to your core, getting back to your peace, and the acting out of the children, did you notice a shift where all of a sudden they were being more well-behaved and they were dealing with things on a better basis?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, I've noticed that it's brought a lot more peace to my family. Definitely, definitely. And it's also, too, I was looking for something outside of me to maintain a crazy lifestyle that it just wasn't working. It wasn't working for my husband. It wasn't working for me. And it certainly wasn't working for my children. And it brought me back to the basics of appreciate and enjoy and nourish what's in front of you rather than looking for something outside. And the blessing is that, my gosh, I've always wanted to have a family, my husband, my own children, and I have that, and I've wanted that all my life, and I finally received it, and then I didn't appreciate it, and the 7 keys brought me back to appreciating it and enjoying it. More importantly, enjoying what's going on, what's in front of me, rather than reaching out for something else and then complaining about what's already in front of me.
Beautiful, beautiful. So as you've been improving things, what would you say for yourself was the most helpful breakthrough or practice that you began to use from the 7 keys in your life where you found something that really made a major difference for you? Any particular thing that you can focus on and say, boy, this one practice really made that shift. This was where a breakthrough happened and I reconnected. Anything that stands out for you?
You know what, to be honest, I really think that I would really have to say that each of the 7 keys was a stepping stone to getting back to who I was. And I really think that there wasn't just one particular key. I'd really actually have to say that every one of those keys, which I'm going to be doing the program over again, because I think it's just so valuable. It's like a Course in Miracles. That there's so much value to it that it's something that everything brought me back. Everything was so valuable, and it was just, and everything just adds so much purpose, and especially too in a lot of the roller coaster ride of trying to get back to this place, which was what life was trying to show me, helped me, and they were invaluable, and I wouldn't have been able to get back here without them.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what advice might you give to other people who may be watching and listening to you now who are also going through these struggles in their life? What advice do you have for them?
I would say the 7 keys, definitely. It's like it's basically like having anywhere from 10 minutes to about a 20-minute session with you daily, which to me is invaluable. And to me is just, it's something that gets you right on the right path, and it gets you to the forest beyond the trees. And it's really, it's something that just made my life so much better, so much easier, and it just brought so much more joy and so much more focus into what was already going on. And it just opens me up for so much more, and that it's just an invaluable, wonderful tool, definitely, and it is definitely worthwhile.
Thank you so much, Elena. You know, I have had the pleasure of watching you face these different obstacles in your life and turn the obstacles into stepping stones towards growth and development, and just seeing you now, you know, again. Being able to deal with all of the shifts and movements that are happening in your life and doing it from a place where you're centered and grounded. I appreciate all of your commitment, your resolve in order to be able to really bring this into your life, and feel blessed to have had the opportunity to contribute in any way that I was able to in order to help improve the conditions, create a better state of mind for yourself and for your family. So thank you very much for all that you've shared and that you've given, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.